I'd always thought that the quiet life was just a matter of finding the right place. Something peaceful, away from the chaos of city life, somewhere I could build a cabin, maybe grow some vegetables, and just live in peace without too many people poking their noses into my business. I didn't expect to end up in a full-blown property war. But that's exactly what happened when I moved to Briarwood Reserve. Now, before we dive into the drama, let me set the scene. I inherited this patch of land from my late uncle, this quirky old guy who bought up little oddball pieces of property like they were baseball cards. And honestly, I wasn't expecting much. Just a place to build a cabin and escape the daily grind. It wasn't even connected directly to the HOA-controlled area, but it bordered it, like a little piece of land that no one paid attention to. Everything started off fine. I drove up to my new property, unloaded the truck, and started making plans. The sun was just beginning to warm up the sleepy neighborhood as I pulled in with my truck, a trailer, in the hope of finally leaving my quiet dream. But that hope? Yeah, it lasted about 36 hours. 2 days in, the HOA president, a woman named Deborah Whitmore, walked onto my land like she owned the place. Clipboard in hand, mirrored sunglasses on, she didn't even greet me. She just started going off about how my shed violated HOA rules. I was confused. I hadn't even met a soul here, but apparently, she had a complaint. My shed, the one I built with my own hands, it wasn't up to her standards. The lawn decor? Apparently, not solely appropriate. I pointed out that I wasn't even part of the HOA, but she just smiled like I'd said something cute and replied, "That's not really how things work around here." I thought that would be the end of it. But no. Every morning, I'd find more pink notices stuck to a post that wasn't even mine, demanding I comply with their rules. Honestly, I started to get annoyed, but I figured, hey, maybe it would blow over. But then, one Saturday, a tow truck shows up, trying to take my trailer. And that's when I realized something was seriously off. I confronted Deborah, and that's when she dropped the bomb. The HOA voted to extend oversight to bordering properties for continuity. Now, I'm not an idiot, but I also wasn't about to roll over. I tried to get the property line information, but when I looked it up online, the documents seemed messed up. So, I went down to the county, and guess what? The original property lines were stuck on microfilm mold, outdated, and not digitized. That alone was weird. Something wasn't right. I started digging deeper, and this is where it got interesting. I had an old friend from college, Vince, who worked as a surveyor. He came over with some serious equipment, even a drone, to check out the property lines. Vince looked at the maps, pulled up county records, and just shook his head. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Her house doesn't just touch your land. It cuts through it. Your land is underneath her house." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Her kitchen, her garage, her backyard patio, all of it was built on my property. I went straight to Deborah with the news. I wasn't there to gloat. I wasn't there to rub it in. I just wanted to show her the maps and talk about it. But she laughed in my face. "You're a scammer. Trying to intimidate a single woman," she said, before slamming the door in my face. 3 hours later, she filed a noise complaint against me and claimed I was building illegal fences. I knew at that point there was no reasoning with her. I had to do this the legal way. I hired a surveyor, got everything double-checked, and started gathering evidence. Things got a little more intense after that. Deborah ripped up the survey markers I had placed, dumped them on my driveway like they were trash, and wrote, "Nice try," on one with a permanent marker. I didn't back down. I filed a trespassing report, and that's when I decided to take it to the HOA board. I thought surely someone would see reason when I showed them the county stamped deeds and the survey results. But no, Deborah had them all wrapped around her finger. She passed a note to one of the board members, and they brushed me off, suggesting I was misreading everything. That's when I realized this wasn't just a fight about land. It was a fight about power. Deborah had been the queen of that cul-de-sac for so long, she honestly believed she could do whatever she wanted. She didn't care that the facts were staring her in the face. So I went to the county, got every legal document I could find. I went to the county enforcement office, and they confirmed that Deborah had literally built her entire home on land that wasn't hers. They told me it was a mess, but they were ready to help me fix it. They gave me the green light to proceed. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. Deborah tried to pull another stunt. She put up a banner in her yard, all dramatic, calling for a Save Our Community rally. She gathered reporters, and when they asked about the deed, she changed the subject. She tried to paint me as the VY Lane, the one who was destroying her home. She even tried to sue me for emotional distress. The nerve. But the universe has a funny way of balancing things out. I took the fight to court. I presented the facts, the deeds, the surveyor's reports, and the county stamps. Deborah, with her flimsy HOA maps, tried to argue, but the judge shut her down in seconds. "Do you have any legal evidence that you own this land?" the judge asked. Deborah couldn't produce a single thing. And that was the turning point. From there, it was all downhill for Deborah. The HOA kicked her out as president, and the board started to crumble. People began to see her for what she was, someone who had abused her power for years. As for me, I reclaimed what was mine. I had the deed. I had the law on my side. And now, I had the peace I'd been craving. But Deborah wasn't done. She filed a final suit against me, claiming emotional damages, defamation, and all sorts of nonsense. Of course, that case got thrown out too. And then came the final twist. One morning, I saw workers unloading materials on Deborah's property again. She was trying to build another extension right on my land. I called the county officer, and when he arrived, he issued her a warning. If even a nail crossed the line, the penalties would double. It didn't take long for Deborah to give up. A few days later, she had a real estate agent at her door. She sold the house for far less than it was worth, and the next thing I knew, she was no goodbyes, no apologies, just a moving truck and a quiet exit. Now, when I look at that piece of land, I see peace. The boundaries are clear. My land is mine again, and Deborah's house? Well, it's just a half house now. The walls are jagged, and the garden is a symbol of what happens when someone refuses to accept the truth. The whole neighborhood knows her story now. Some people cheer, others still defend her, but in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I stood my ground. But here's the kicker: there are still people like Deborah in the world. People who think they can bulldoze their way through life, ignoring the truth. But sometimes, all it takes to stop them is one person who refuses to back down. One person with the right evidence, the right tools, and the patience to wait for the truth to win. So what do you think? Was I right to take a stand and fight for what was mine, or did I take it too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on this, especially if you've ever had to deal with someone like Deborah. Do you think the law always prevails, or does it depend on the situation? Let's talk about it. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story on Store of Good Stories. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to hit like and share the video to spread this positive message to more people. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the meaningful stories we share every week. Your support is the biggest motivation for Store of Good Stories to keep bringing heartfelt and valuable stories to you. See you in the next video.